I know it might not feel like it, but there are actually some really beneficial aspects to a breakup, especially if it's your first one. Welcome to my Broken to Brave podcast. I'm Donna Barnes, and I specialize in breakup coaching, largely because unfortunately I've been through far too many of my own breakups. I know it doesn't feel like it, but this is actually the best thing that ever happened to you. I promise you it is. I mean, I've been pretty open about the fact that I never had my heart broken until I was 30. I mean, I'd not gotten my way sometimes, but I'd never really had my heart broken. It was debilitating, right? So trust me, I know exactly what you're going through and how painful it is. If it is your first one, then yeah, it's like the rug got pulled out from underneath you, and dealing with it is really difficult. And, it's grief. It's the 5 stages of grief. And I've been very open about saying, the first one is denial, right? Like everybody, I've been coaching people for 18 years now. Everybody comes to me and says, how do I get my ex back? Right? Because you're in denial that it's over. And the bargaining stage of like, look, this is what I can do to be better. This is how I can get you back. Let's try it again, right? That's the bargaining stage of grief. Anger, I think, some of these are all mixed together at the same time, right? Like anger, you're really angry at your ex. And depression, right? You're just sad. You don't feel like doing anything. You're really just kind of not your best self, right? That's just all part of the process. But then ultimately you get to acceptance, which is where the benefit of the breakup comes in. Because you can learn so much about yourself if you're willing to use your pain to for self-growth, right? I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? If you're coasting along and you're feeling great and everything's going your way, most people aren't that interested in self-growth. But if you've just had your heart ripped out, I promise you, knowledge is what will make you feel better, largely about yourself and how you can grow from it and what you can learn about yourself. First, I know you're going to be really angry at your ex and blaming your ex. But the more you can look at your own stuff and look, I know for me, my self-growth started in trying to figure out what went wrong with the relationship, right? I'm reading everything I could get my hands on to try to figure out what happened, right? Which actually is why I created my online course. If you're really struggling through a relationship, the link to my online course is in the details. And you can also become affiliate of it if you know someone who's going through a breakup. If you're watching this because you know somebody who's really struggling, then you can become an affiliate and help promote my online course. But without getting off track, the whole point of my online course is that the guy that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with, who I'd been living with, had, I now know he started dating somebody else, but he didn't tell me that, right? And he like all of a sudden did an about face. So I, in real time, was going through my own breakup while I was making all sorts of advice videos about how to get over a breakup, which if you're struggling, I think is the most effective use of your time because it centers on self-growth. And I know you really need to scrutinize your ex first and figure out what went wrong with your ex. And if you can get your ex back is the biggest question, right? But I've also frequently said that in the 18 years of coaching people, I can count on one hand how many people I actually thought should get their ex back once they started telling me about their relationship. And people don't know what a toxic relationship is. So many times someone starts telling me about their relationship and I like, it's enlightening to them to find out that they were in a toxic relationship. And verbal abuse is the biggest version of that. Most people say like, yeah, if they hit me, then I'd leave. But words can be sharper, right? Words can be really abusive. Anything critical or, any control, there's a lot of words that can be really damaging in relationships. And that's all stuff that you can learn right now if you're really open to it. I mean, self-growth is the biggest benefit of having your heart ripped out, really. And that's why it's a gift, really, to get your heart broken, because it's usually the impetus that causes you to start looking at your own stuff And we all need to look at our own stuff, right? Like the value of a breakup is that you usually get to learn things about yourself that you didn't recognize prior to the breakup. Moving forward, it'll help you make better choices in your next relationship because, I think usually whatever wasn't working in the last relationship is what you're hyper focused on for the next relationship. But it's all a process. It's the process of grieving and really coming to terms with the fact that you don't want your ex back. And that's when you'll start feeling better. I mean, clients ask me all the time, how long is it going to take me to get over this? When am I going to feel better? Why can't I move on? It's because you're not wanting to let go. While you still believe that you want your ex back or can get your ex back, you're going to be stuck in limbo. And limbo sucks, right? Limbo, you can't control it. You're waiting for something that you cannot control, which is to get your ex back. And I've been open about the fact that one guy offered me $10,000 to get his ex back, which isn't even fair because people have free will, right? Like there's no way that nobody, there's all sorts of gimmicks out there on the internet that are going to promise you that they can get your ex back. It's not true. There is nothing short of like voodoo or, prayer maybe, right? But like there's nothing that anybody on the face of this earth can do to cause your ex to come back. However, you can become a better version of yourself, which may cause your ex to be more interested in you if you become a better version of yourself. But honestly, most people, once they do the self-growth work and become a better version of themselves, don't want that ex back anymore. They don't want somebody that hurt them the way that their ex did, because who says they're not going to do it again? Because that's what usually happens. I mean, the guy that I said I was living with, that then we ended up getting back together, yeah, he still hurt me again. So don't fall for that, right? If your ex does come back, it's usually not to stay. It's usually just to get a little fix of you or because they're missing you too. I mean, because like, look, I've long said it's the habit of interacting with somebody, right? When you first break up, you have the habit of spending time together. And it's hard for your ex too to get over that and to get past it. But that doesn't mean that they want to get you back and try again for a long period of time. They might just want to satiate their need and get their little fix of you a little bit, right? And trust me, I had that up. The first guy that broke my heart, 5 years later, I was still allowing him back in my life because I was crazy about him. And I refused to believe that he wasn't my guy, right? That he wasn't the one. If I'd had the knowledge that I have now, I would have never wasted those years of my life, which were very prime years of my life. I mean, I was 30 when he ripped my heart out. And I didn't get in another serious relationship until I was 35. I mean, those are really critical years of my life living in Manhattan. You know how many amazing, wonderful men were crazy about me and I really didn't give them the time of day because I was so hung up on this guy? I wish I had those years back. So don't be that person. Don't keep so hung up on somebody that you're passing by really terrific people who might be so good for you, but you can't see them for who they truly are because you're so hung up on the, that hurt you, right? And that's the truth, right? Like in writing a cons list, which I'm famous for saying that I think is a great thing to do. The biggest con is that they hurt you. And what's to prevent them from hurting you again? When people show you who they are, believe them. And an ex who has hurt you will think nothing of hurting you again if the mood strikes them, because that's who they are. People always say, do people come back to, especially if you've been ghosted, right? Ghosting is a horrendous way to break up with somebody. In today's world of electronics, where texting is so easy to send a text to just say like, hey, like this is what's going on, right? Without getting on the topic of ghosting, because geez, I could go down a rabbit hole of that. But if someone has ghosted you, they usually will come back. It usually takes a good 9 months, a year, somewhere thereabouts, maybe 2 years. They will come back and want to hook up with you again. I kind of promise you that, because they usually do. But it doesn't mean they're sticking around. It just means they're going to rip the Band-Aid off. And then now you're going to be missing them again. So don't fall for that. That happens all too often. I can't even tell you how many times clients come to me for coaching because they were all excited that their ex came back and they got to see their ex and they thought they were getting back together. They thought they were getting married, and now they got dumped again. And they're so mad at themselves that they let their ex back in. So if your ex does come back and wants to come back in, don't just jump into their arms. Really ask them some hard questions of, what happened? Why did you leave? What would be different if we try this again, which is the biggest piece, right? Like, nothing changes if nothing changes. If your ex comes back and nothing is different than it was the first time, you're going to break up all over again. Like, something needs to change, something needs to be different. So ask, why should I take you back? What's going to be different this time? And see what they say. And if they've spent a lot of time thinking about it and they really know and they're trying to make amends to you, that might be worth doing. Depending on who your ex is, right? You know them better than I do, right? If you know them to be highly manipulative, then don't fall for it. And by the way, if you know them to be highly manipulative, you deserve better. So yeah, that's a gift. And to that point, it's a gift if your ex was toxic in one way or another, because it really helps you knock them off that pedestal, right? If they're not who you thought they were, that's a gift in being able to let go. And depending on how you broke up, I think you got to see a different side of your ex that you hadn't seen before. So perhaps they're not the person that you thought they were, especially if they made all sorts of promises to you. Broken promises. This is a big part of struggling to get over a relationship, right? Like, you promised me. I'm somebody who really takes my word seriously, and I won't promise things that I don't think I can fulfill. I just don't. Because I was raised that your word means something. You say you're going to do something, you've got to do it. Which I know for me, I'm very annoyed by people that don't do things that they said they were going to do, right? It's a button for me. It's like, if you said you were going to do something, I expect you to do it. And now if you don't, it's going to upset me, right? So I get the whole failed promises things. But when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And if they promised all sorts of things that they've now broken that promise, they're not who you thought they were. And that's a big piece in letting go of wanting to be with them, right? You want somebody that you can trust, that you can value their word, that they value their word. And when they say things, they mean them and they're going to follow through with them. That's the kind of person you want to be in a relationship with. I know it doesn't feel like it, but this breakup is the best thing that could have ever happened to you if you use it as motivation to become your best self. I mean, really look at your stuff and look at, potential issues and why you chose this person in the first place, right? Pattern identifying exercises of why you choose people. Because, geez, yeah, I have a habit of picking unavailable people. And, when I was talking to my therapist about that 20 years ago, she kind of implied that to me. And I argued with her because people don't seem unavailable when you first meet them. But yeah, they end up being available in the fact that I'm no longer with them, right? So that makes them unavailable. And I think it's actually really common to pick unavailable people. It's really helpful after a breakup to look at your issues, to look at the choices that you made, to reevaluate your behavior, and really try to look at how you could do things better. Really use this time to grow, become the best version of yourself. In moving forward, I think a rebound with a really inappropriate choice is a really good way to first start to move on, right? Because if you're just coming out of something that was really important to you and you meet a terrific person, you're not going to be able to maintain it, right? You're not going to see that person for who they are, which is hurtful to the person, but it's also doing a disservice to you that you're destroying something that could be really good for you if you were ready for it, right? Timing is everything. I do say that, right? But I think to date somebody after a significant relationship, to date somebody who you know you're not going to keep around, who's not really right for you, somebody who's fun in one way or another, is a great way to move forward in getting ready for a true relationship, right? Like, I mean, like years ago, I was with a guy. I was living with him. I really thought I was going to marry him and spend the rest of my life with him, but he struggled to make decisions. And yeah, I left him because I thought it was the kick in the ass that he needed to say, let's get married. And all his friends said that to me, like, he's not going to let you go. You're the best thing that ever happened to him. And I was like, I know. He did, right? So I met this guy online. He was very handsome, 6'4", wore these beautiful Hugo Boss suits, right? Real blue eyes and just, wow, yeah, wildly fun, right? Like I was in my 30s still then, right? So like, we're going out to clubs and the sun's coming up and we're still out and just really like party boy, but wildly fun and ridiculously handsome, right? So, but we were out at a club one night and he's off running around talking to people. And one of his friends that I knew really kind of had a crush on me was sitting and talking to me. And he said to me, can I ask you something? And I said, yeah, sure. What? And he said, you're a dating coach, right? And I said, yeah. And he said, what are you doing with him? Right? And I laughed and I said, can I be brutally honest? And he said, yeah, please. And I said, I'm still very much in love with my ex-boyfriend, and he's a great distraction. And the guy was like, oh, I so get that. Oh my gosh. Like, thank you for telling me that. I really get that. And that's exactly my point. Somebody who's really not, and my best friend was going, what are you doing? Why are you dating this guy? He's like, using drugs to stay up all night. And like, that's kind of not my thing. Right. So like, really not a good choice in a partner, but wildly fun and really handsome. Like, and just like a perfect rebound fling to help me move forward so that when I met the next guy, I was really ready for a relationship because I wasn't comparing everything to the last guy, right? Because that's a terrible place to be in. If you move right from a significant relationship into what you're hoping is another significant relationship, it usually just makes you miss the old relationship more. Because everything you're doing with the new person reminds you of the old person, but it's not the old person, so it's a bad recipe, right? But if you have that little inappropriate fling in the meantime, I think it's really helpful in helping you be ready for your next relationship. Just something to consider. Yeah, honestly, I highly recommend my online course. The link is in the description below. I put a lot of thought into it. I spent well more than 200 hours making videos. There's all sorts of exercises and worksheets and quizzes and checklists and things that I put a lot of thought into while I was going through my own breakup to really help you get through your breakup, to move forward as a better version of yourself, hopefully the best version of yourself, so that you can find somebody that'll really last forever. Because that's the whole piece, right? I unfortunately know people who have lingered for decades pining over the one that got away and never ever find happiness because they're not willing to let go of the one that got away and really see that for what it is, especially if the one that got away is with somebody else, right? I know people obsess over their ex's new person. What do they have that you don't have, especially if it's with somebody that you're like, really? They left me for that? But remember the inappropriate affair thing. I think people who do the breaking up do that too. Like somebody that's just hot and sexy, that if they can get them, fun fling thing, to help them get over you. So you should do the exact same thing. Sitting and pining for somebody that you can't have, I like to call it the ghost of someone, isn't helpful to you. It's keeping you lonely. It's preventing you from meeting someone who could be really wonderful for you, who makes you feel loved and wanted and cared about. Because that's what we all want, right? We all just want to find the love of our life, our best friend that we can't keep our hands off of, right? If you're really struggling, I do offer coaching. I mean, I had one guy that said to me, the only time I feel better is when I'm talking to you, right? So I offer packages of coaching. I'll talk to you for hours if that's what you need. And I'm really good at identifying problems and issues that perhaps you didn't see that are very helpful in helping you let go. You deserve better. You deserve to feel loved. And that's the biggest piece. And I know it doesn't feel like it, but this is a gift in moving you towards self-growth, to become the best version of yourself and to make better choices in your next partner. Someday, I promise you, you'll look back at that ex and thank them for all this pain that they caused you, because it helped you become a better you and to help move you forward. So please like my video if you did. They tell me that that really helps other people get to see it too. And I like your comments. Leave me your comments or questions if you have questions, things you want me to make other videos about. And thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you in my next episode.